The year is 1071. Europe's most powerful ruler stands at the edge of a swamp with mounting frustration. William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, had taken England in a single afternoon. He had broken the Saxon shield wall at Hastings. He had burned the north until the chronicles stopped counting the dead. Kings, earls, bishops, all had knelt before him. And yet, for 2 years, one man had refused. His defiance had made the most powerful king in Europe look like a fool. The Normans hated him so much that they tried to erase him from history. They almost succeeded. Hereward was born around 1035 in the flat green fenlands of Lincolnshire, England. His father, Leofric, was a Saxon lord with land, sons, and a reputation. Hereward was the Troublemaker. The chroniclers describe him as short, thick-necked, blonde-haired, and impossibly strong. Hot-tempered, disrespectful to his elders, quick to draw a blade. By the time he was 18, he'd caused so much trouble, his own father petitioned the king to have him exiled. Hereward spent the next decade as a mercenary. He fought in Flanders. He killed a giant Cornish warrior in a duel, or so the legend says. He married a woman named Terfrida, won battles for foreign lords, and built a small fortune. Then, in 1066, everything changed. A Norman duke named William sailed across the Channel with 7,000 men. At the Battle of Hastings, he defeated the English king, Harold, who was famously struck in the eye by an arrow, securing the English throne for himself. Within a year, William was redistributing Anglo-Saxon lands to his French knights. When Hereward finally came home around 1068, he found his family estate at Bourne occupied by Normans. His younger brother had been murdered. His brother's head was mounted on a spike above the gate. That night, Hereward walked into the manor where the Normans were drinking. He killed every single one of them. He took down his brother's head, buried it, and disappeared into the fens. The war had begun. To understand what Hereward did next, you have to understand the fens. In the 11th century, eastern England was not solid ground. It was hundreds of square miles of waist-deep marshland, reed beds, tidal channels, and floating islands of peat. The fog never lifted. The paths shifted with the tide. If you didn't know the land killed you. However, Hereward knew it like he knew his own hands. He recruited an army of the dispossessed, exiled monks, masterless thanes, Danish raiders, even a few defected Normans. He based his force on the Isle of Ely, a slightly raised patch of dry ground, surrounded by impassable swamp on every side. He then started picking the Normans apart. He ambushed tax collectors on country roads. He burned Norman manors in the night. He raided Peterborough Abbey itself, not to steal from God, but to keep its treasures out of Norman hands. He moved through the fens like a ghost. Norman patrols would enter the marsh at dawn, only to never return. By 1070, the rebellion had grown beyond Hereward. Fleeing Saxon nobles began to join him. Additionally, a Danish fleet had sailed up the coast to offer Hereward their support. Suddenly, Anglo-Saxon England might threaten the control of the Normans once again. William the Conqueror, the man who had broken every army sent against him, could not break the resistance in the swamp. He had to try something extraordinary. He ordered his engineers to build a wooden causeway. It was 2 miles long, across open marsh, through the heart of the fens, straight to the Isle of Ely, like something out of the playbook of the Romans, well over 1,000 years ago. Thousands of Norman soldiers began to march onto it in an attempt to cross the swamps. Hereward's men were waiting. They had spent weeks soaking the reeds in highly flammable pitch. As the Normans crossed, Saxon torches dropped into the marsh, and the fens caught fire. The chronicles describe what happened next as a vision of hell. Burning reeds, burning men, the causeway itself catching flame and collapsing under the weight of armored knights. Norman soldiers drowned in burning water, weighed down by their own armor. Hereward's men picked off survivors from the reeds with arrows. William, watching from dry ground, is said to have wept with rage at the awful sight. If the story ended there, Hereward would still be a legend. But the part that turned him into folklore is what he did next. Sometime in 1071, Hereward decided he needed to know William's next move. So he did something no nobleman in Europe would have even dared. He shaved his head, stained his face with walnut juice. He bought a sad little donkey, loaded it with cheap clay pots, and walked, alone, straight into King William's royal camp. Disguised as a potter, he began selling wares to Norman soldiers. For an entire day, Hereward wandered the camp. He listened to officers argue strategy. He counted horses. He even, the chronicles say, sold a pot to the Norman King of England himself. William bought it without ever looking at the man's face. By nightfall, Hereward knew exactly how the next attack would come. When the attack came, Hereward was ready. William had changed tactics from his previous attempt. This time he sent thousands more men, with siege engines, sappers, and armoured boats. And, because William was a man who believed in covering every angle, he brought a witch. A Norman sorceress, lifted onto a tall wooden tower at the edge of the marsh, where she shouted curses across the water at the defenders of Ely. 3 times a day, the chronicles say, she performed her rites, screaming spells meant to break Saxon morale. Hereward's response was the same as before. He sent men crawling through the reeds at night with torches. They set fire to the tower's wooden legs. The structure burned. The witch fell with it. The second Norman invasion broke and retreated, just like the first. William the Conqueror had now lost 2 armies to a man in a swamp. Simply attacking the swamp wasn't going to work. William rode to the monks of Ely Abbey, the holy men whose monastery sat at the heart of Hereward's island fortress. He offered them a simple deal. Show me the secret paths through the marsh, and your abbey keeps its lands when this is over. Refuse, and I burn it to the foundations. The monks chose their abbey over their countrymen. One night, while Hereward was leagues away leading a raid in the forests of Brunswold, hooded monks led Norman soldiers single file along a hidden causeway that only they knew. By dawn, the Isle of Ely was theirs. Hereward returned to a captured fortress. His wife, Turfrida, had fled to a nunnery in grief. His best men were in chains. The Anglo-Saxon resistance was finished. Hereward was now alone. With the rebellion finally defeated, the Danish fleet abandoned him. Hereward's lieutenants were captured, blinded, or hanged. And here is where history simply loses him. Some chronicles say he made peace with William and was given a small estate. Others say he was murdered in a brawl by jealous Norman knights, killing 15 of them before he fell. Some say he fled to the forests and continued raiding for decades. Some say he sailed away and was never seen again. No grave was ever found. No final battle. No witnessed death. He just disappeared. 200 years later, English storytellers would invent a new outlaw hero. They'd put him in Sherwood Forest instead of the Fens. They'd give him a bow instead of a sword, a hood instead of a potter's rags. They'd call him Robin Hood. But the bones of his story, the noble robbed of his land, the band of outcasts in the wilderness, the disguises, the impossible escapes, the tyrant king who could never quite catch him, all of it had already happened. Hereward the Wake was the original, and the Normans hated him so much they tried to erase him from the records. They almost succeeded. Almost. If you'd like to learn about more incredible historical figures, hit subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have any suggestions on who we should make a video about next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Mortal Legends.